Welcome to this episode of Life is Delicious. Do you ever feel like midlife has you running on an endless hamster wheel of responsibilities while your own dreams just gather dust? Is the crazy chaos of caring for everyone else leaving you exhausted and overwhelmed? And is the hormonal hurricane of menopause threatening to derail your sanity? Are you in desperate need of some self-care, balance, and reconnection with your truest self? If so, then I'm so glad you're here. This podcast isn't about surviving midlife. It's about crafting a next chapter overflowing with purpose, joy, and delicious possibilities. I'm Marnie Martin, a multi-passionate entrepreneur, daughter, and a hot midlife mama, literally. And over the last decade, I've been through career pivots, a divorce, and a survived the empty nest only to have it fill up again. I spent the next several years traveling miles and miles every month to care for my elderly parents, and my time and attention was so torn in every direction that I lost track of who I was, and I found myself in an endless cycle of people-pleasing, putting out fires, and frankly, running on empty. I know how it feels to be stuck in chronic overwhelm, stress, and chaos, and trust me, it's not a pretty picture. I decided that it was time to take my own life and health back. I worked hard to reclaim my health through radical self-care practices, recalibrating my nervous system, and setting healthy boundaries that allowed me to start living my life on purpose again. I'm here to show you that midlife doesn't have to be a crisis, but instead a beautiful invitation to prioritize yourself again. If you're ready to take back your joie de vivre, then pop in those earbuds and let's go get it. Welcome, Meagan, to the Life is Delicious podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today. I really feel like your story will resonate with so many of my listeners.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about divorce and hopefully help some of your listeners.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, fortunately, not everyone has to go through it, but there's a good majority of the population that does. So let's go back to the beginning of your journey and tell us a little bit about your story and what led you to doing the work you're doing today.
Sure. Well, it was the summer of 2021, and I had been sort of in this place of indecision about leaving my marriage for a long time. And I was on a call with a mentor, and she said, "Hey, Meagan, there are consequences no matter what you decide." And in that instant, I realized I had this flash forward in my mind to, I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a little girl. And I had a flash forward to my daughter's wedding, and I could see her getting married. And I thought, oh no, I'll get to that moment. And if I haven't done everything within my power to break a cycle, then I won't be able to live with that. But if I do something now about this and I honor what I think I know I need and want, and I get to that point, then I'll know I've done everything in my power to change the story for my lineage. And for some reason, that moment clicked for me. And I had the conversation with my now ex that I, wanted a divorce. And I spent an hour with my therapist at the time planning the year of hell that I was about to go through. And she had me make a list of things I was going to do for self-care. And I thought, okay, I'm an A+ student. I'm going to nail this. I'm going to be the best divorce student on the planet. And I took all these notes. And after the call, I was sitting in my chair. I was already a certified life coach at the time. So I had some tools, enough tools, and I had done enough of my own, personal development work to kind of sit back. And I had this moment where I thought, wait a minute, what if this didn't have to be my story? What if what everyone's telling me about divorce doesn't have to be true? And so I walked through my divorce, not realizing at the time that I was kind of creating this framework that I now teach my clients. And it wasn't until about 3 months after my divorce was over, when I was working with a coach to help me build my business, that she stopped me mid-story and said, "Whoa, why aren't you helping women do this? This is an amazing story." And I woke up the next morning and posted my first post on Instagram as a divorce coach.
Good for you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that happens so often on this show, and the people that I get to speak with and get to interview is that our mess becomes our message. And so often those really hard moments that we go through in our life become the backbone of what we are meant to use as a tool to serve.
100%. And I think it makes a huge difference. I know, when I work with a mentor or a coach or a therapist, if she hasn't been through something similar to me, or at least, some intense adversity in her life, then it's not the same. And I think that one of the reasons I'm able to do the powerful work that I can is because I understand exactly what it feels like to be in this moment.
Yeah. And that's super powerful. And what I think is so wonderful about the approach that you took, obviously, like you say, you had some tools in your tool belt, but so often, and it doesn't matter whether you're going through a divorce or life transition or whatever you're dealing with, it's the story we tell ourselves about what that is going to mean and how we step into that. And do we have to believe that old story or the story that everybody else has lived? We don't have to do that. So I think it's really powerful that you said, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to approach this with curiosity and see, can I do this differently and not have a complete year of hell?
Yes, I really if anybody takes anything away from this episode, it's that what people are usually talking about, no matter what your adversity is, maybe it's an illness or a death, or maybe it's a divorce, but statistics and what people are usually talking about is our reflection of the past. They're almost never talking about the infinite possibility available to us in the future when we're creating really rebuilding our lives from nothing. We're not nothing, but every corner of our lives, so to speak, is being touched by the adversity of divorce. Okay, if you have to choose everything in your life again, do you really want to choose the story someone gives you that it has to be worse or harder, or that it's a setback, or that it's a failure? Or do you want to write a different story?
Yeah, I think that's a super powerful way of looking at things. And we all have the capacity to do that, but we don't always know that in the midst of being in the mud or the hard part.
Yes.
So what do you think was the most powerful thing you did first to step into this new version of yourself?
Oh, I edited during my divorce, I edited my social media feed to things that only left me feeling better. So I didn't need to understand why, and I didn't need to do a deep dive into why I was triggered by something. But if there was divorce content or really triggering news, then I would block it in my social media feed. And I also did that with the people in my life. So everyone has an opinion when you're getting divorced. Everyone's triggered. Everyone's afraid, right? Your parents are worried. Your friends and family are worried. Your kids are upset. Your ex is, usually upset. And everybody has an opinion on what you should do and how it should go. And I really, because I couldn't find the resources that I needed and wanted, I shut out all the extra noise and went inward and worked with my mentor at the time only, and cleaned up what I was consuming. So most of the time people come to the decision to get a divorce having obsessively read books, listened to every podcast they can get their hands on. They're following a lot of divorce coaches and lawyers on social media. And I really encourage people to edit those things down unless it leaves you feeling better or gives you a strategy that feels empowering to you. Then it's not for you. It's not helping.
Yeah, and that's so important. I think that that is the best strategy, and I am a huge proponent of tuning out the noise. And the hard part with the divorce is that it's not just you going through it. It's your in-laws and it's your, right, siblings that are attached. And there's just so much untethered stuff that goes along with it. So you're afraid to disappoint people and you're always trying to navigate everybody else's emotions. But what I hear you saying is that you said, I will be respectful of their emotions, but I have to take care of my emotions first because it's the only way I can move forward.
Yes. I mean, that's what's so hard about this season of life when you go through it, if someone goes through it, is that most women are accustomed to sort of orchestrating life, right? We're very efficient, we're very capable, we're very good at seeing a problem and finding a solution and fixing it, right? And changing it. And we tend to be very proactive. And then when you enter this divorce process, all of a sudden there are so many things you can't control. You might see the most efficient way from point A to point B, but your ex might disagree with you. Maybe your in-laws are mad at you. Maybe you're being misunderstood. And all of a sudden, all of those old strategies, success strategies and coping mechanisms don't work anymore. And so we're left with this really intense emotional experience, and we don't know how to manage our nervous system when so many things are out of our control. And it's this process of learning to relate to your own nervous system and use your emotions as fuel to support yourself and to create a new identity, so to speak, that really helps you move through the process. Because otherwise, you are just going to feel desperate and be reactive the whole time because you're realizing, oh my gosh, I actually, no matter how hard I try, I cannot force someone to understand me or to make this happen faster.
Yeah, it's a process for sure. And the patience piece is a big piece of it. And there's a lot of things to unpack in the course of that situation. I've been divorced twice, so I have reverence for that. And my kids were quite
so you
little.
know.
Yeah. I know. I totally know. I've been there. And it's really, I remember when I was going through it that there came a moment where, after was my first husband, my kids were little, and I remember thinking to myself, I have no idea what I want or what I even like to do anymore, because I was so used to just taking care of everybody else. And so I had to have that moment too, where sitting quietly with myself going, this is so uncomfortable, but I know I need to do it until the feeling passes so that I can get to the other side of this really uncomfortable moment. And yeah, it's definitely a process. So I really appreciate your story so much more from that perspective too.
Yes. I remember I was working with a life coach in like 2019, and she asked me, well, what do you want? And it was the first time anyone in my whole life had ever asked me that. And it stumped me. I thought, what do I want? What does that have to do with anything? And then I realized, oh, wait a minute. It has everything to do with everything. But it was the first time I had this conscious awareness that I could want something and that maybe it really mattered.
And you got permission, which you don't need permission, but you felt somebody saying to you, you can have that for yourself. That matters. And what you want is everything.
Yes. And I find that I call it relational witnessing, that happens either within a supportive group or when I'm mentoring somebody. We're kind of preached to around like, well, you don't need permission. You just get to want what you want and do what you want to do and trust yourself. But it really helps. I don't know if it's the way, women's brains are wired or our nervous system, but it really helps to have somebody reflect back to you what you want, and then to say, hey, it's okay. It's okay to be struggling. It's okay to hate this. It's okay to be unsure. It's okay to want what you want. And I find it helps collapse time and moves the process of the emotional divorce along much faster, because the emotional divorce and the legal divorce are just two completely separate things. And we get confused and we think one solves the other, and it's just not true. They're separate and we need support in both.
And I think it's a generalization for sure, but I do know from my own scope and from all the things that I've read, the majority of women, especially in our age demographic, have been kind of grew up as a good girl and a people pleaser and all of those things. And so really we're hardwired to make sure everybody else's needs are taken care of first. And then once that happens, we can maybe, have a hot bath or, and it's like, that is so backwards. And it took me years to unravel the good girl people pleaser in me. And I always say I'm still a recovering people pleaser, but it's a huge part of getting back to your own inner compass and being able to hear that voice inside you that knows better.
Yes. And to be able to trust it. I find that, I mean, this certainly was true for me. I really questioned, wait a minute, if I just give myself permission to live how I want to live and do what I want, what will that mean? And I find that women are afraid of their own desire because they think, when what we've been conditioned to believe, that is that if you just do what you want, you're going to be kind of lazy or slovenly, or you'll be a bad mom, or you'll just eat junk food. You're going to be selfish, right?
That's a big trigger. Right,
shameful. There. And what is so profound, and I love giving this message to other women, is that I've talked to hundreds, maybe thousands of women. I've never met one who didn't want to do the best she could do, who didn't want to make choices in alignment with her integrity and her values. Like, generally speaking, unless there's some like serious mental health issues, what we want is actually for everyone to be okay. And we don't want to do something for ourselves that's going to be at some great expense to other people. But we've confused it so much that we think saying, make your own lunch for tomorrow, I'm going to go take a hot bath, is a problem, when really it's setting this beautiful example for our kids and for other people that we can take care of ourselves because we're worthy of that and we need it.
Yeah, and we have to teach people how to treat us too. And so when we're able to have those conversations, it allows your kids specifically to see, oh, wait a minute, mom matters too, and her needs matter. And I'm capable of doing this. I could let my mom do it because she'll do it. But, you know, it also gives them agency of their own life too.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Plus it models to them what it looks like to take care of yourself. I for a long time, I wanted to just do everything for my kids and tell them to take care of themselves. But what I was showing them was taking care of them at my own expense. And so I have flipped that on its head since my divorce and really let them see me doing both, right? Like helping them when I have the resources and stepping in and supporting them, but also saying no to things and letting them handle some things when my bucket's full or empty, or I need, a break or whatever. And so I feel much more confident about what they're seeing and hearing now.
That's fantastic. I love that so much. And it's such an interesting journey being a single mom with your kids, and what a crazy different bond that it creates. It's a different bond, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's just something a little bit deeper. I think you could probably agree with that.
Yes. Let's see. Can we articulate it? I think because I've let my kids, I don't let them know adult things that are inappropriate for them, but I do let them in on what's going on behind the scenes. Sometimes, if I have to work, let's say right now I'm recording this podcast with you, and at 7 p.m. and my 11-year-old daughter is like, "Oh, mom." I'm like, "Yeah, but remember, we're making $1 million." And she's like, "Oh yeah." And I was like, "You're helping me." And she's like, "Oh yeah." And they get in on it. And it's such a beautiful deepening of our connection that we didn't have before.
Yeah. And it's a co-creation, right? You kind of bring them in a different way, and you're like, let's co-create this great life together and figure out what that looks like for us. And that's a beautiful gift for them, and an unexpected bonus of having gone through a really hard experience with divorce.
Yes, especially because obviously it's usually hard for kids, right? They don't understand what's going on. Maybe you've never done it before. And so you're not sure how to talk to them. You're learning as you go. Things are really messy. And I know for me, I don't know how you felt, but for me, I did kind of feel like I was holding my breath for a minute afterwards to see, are we going to be okay? Is everyone going to be okay? And then I slowly started to get evidence. Like for a long time, I'm like, I'm going on 100% faith and belief here. I don't know what's going to play out, but I'm going to trust that we'll handle it. And then, as time goes by, I'm starting to see these beautiful seeds sprouting of not just, they're okay, but they're actually thriving and they're turning into these beautiful humans. And it's so rewarding.
And I totally agree with that too, because I think that whole holding your breath, like just because you don't know, and then there comes that moment after you've, done the work and you've been, trudging along, kind of trying to get through it. And then it's like, I can exhale for a minute and it's okay. And everybody is okay. And it doesn't feel like the sky is falling anymore. But it's so much about just not catastrophizing everything, because not everything is completely chaos, but it feels that way inside.
Yeah, it's emotional chaos. Like everything on the outside is usually pretty calm, right? Nothing acute is usually happening, but there's this emotional chaos because there's so much change, and our cultural narrative around divorce is terrible and depressing. And nobody is telling us, wait a minute, this emotional chaos is actually a good sign, because what's happening is you're shedding all the parts of you all the armor you put on to sort of survive something while it was deteriorating. And now you're having to shed those. And it's sort of this process of becoming a butterfly. You go into the cocoon, you get all mushy, and you will come out a butterfly, but you really have to separate what you feel as the emotional chaos from the circumstances, which are not chaos. You've got it and you will figure it out. It's okay that you feel chaotic right now. Let's unpack it and see what's going on. I can almost always find a point of relief when I'm talking to somebody. There's a thought error happening. There's a misfiring of how she's relating to her nervous system. I can almost always alleviate some of the chaos and the pressure that we feel. But it's really hard to do that from within the brain that's creating the chaos. You really need somebody's outside perspective and nervous system to help you co-regulate and be like, hey, it's going to be okay.
Stay tuned for a quick word from our sponsor. It's official. The Life is Delicious Week and Month at a Glance calendar is now available up on Amazon. It's part life coach, part executive assistant, and part old school 8.5 by 11 planner. It's got space to tackle all of your 2026 dreams, from health, wealth, and holiday goals to tracking monthly financial plans and self-care moments. I know everything has gone digital these days, but I'm still old school, and I love to write down business appointments, my financial milestones, birthdays, and everything in between. So if you're old school like me, or want to give the gift of organization this year, I've made this year's Life is Delicious planner with undated pages, so it's perfect for gifting year-round. Get your copy or one for someone you love at lifeisdelicious.ca/bookshelf. Or search for it on Amazon. I wish you a 2026 that lights you up on every level. That's lifeisdelicious.ca/bookshelf. Okay, back to the show. But you know what I find is really fascinating too is that, and I think this is really important to talk about, is that so often we enter into, and I love being married, I'm not going to lie, I always loved the institution of marriage. However, when we get into the death do us part situation and then we decide to dissolve the marriage for whatever the reason is, and quite often the divorce is actually not a failure. It's a recognition that something's broken and not working, or you've grown as far as you possibly can with that person and you need to move in a different direction. And with my second husband, we loved each other dearly, but we still chose to part ways because we just didn't see a congruent future. So as far as I'm concerned, that is not a failure. And I think that's what we need to talk about so much more, because choosing yourself rather than choosing what the institution of marriage to force you to stay in a situation till death do you part, that's backward thinking and so archaic in this day and age.
Yes. I mean, I felt like I was going to die if I stayed there. And that was going to be the failure that I became so terrified of. So divorce is never a failure. It's not something that's broken. I hate that narrative. I get so much hate on Instagram when I post that because it finds the ugly side of Instagram. It makes people so mad. But I'm like, well, who is this helping to call it a failure? Because everyone I've talked to has gone to great lengths to make sure this is what they want. And it sounds more like the completion of a relationship or a soul contract, however you want to look at it, than it does somebody's failure.
I agree 100%. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And that's why I'm glad we're talking about that, because I think, there's so much shame when you just feel like I tried and I couldn't make it work. But a lot of times it's not so much about what you do or can do. It's that there's no congruency anymore. You're just in different places and you want different things, or there's infidelities or whatever is happening. But even in those circumstances, choosing what you know to be true for your greater good is anything but a failure as far as I'm concerned.
Right. It's actually for the benefit of everybody in the family.
Yeah, because your kids win when you're happy.
Exactly. Your kids need to see you thriving to be able to know how to thrive. And, I was going to tell you a funny story. When we first started the divorce process, I would walk around my house when I was alone, saying the word divorce out loud, because I had it felt so toxic on my tongue. Like I had a hard time saying the word. I was like, oh my gosh, I just need to normalize this. So I would walk around saying, I'm getting divorced. I am divorced. I'm getting divorced. Divorce, divorce, over and over again, to sort of like exposure therapy my brain and nervous system into being familiar with that word, because I've been so afraid of it for so long.
So taboo.
Yes. And then as you get divorced, there's these, I call them micro divorce moments, where for the first time you're in a doctor's office and you have to check the box that says divorced, which, why is that even a category? I don't understand. There's single and then there's divorce. I'm like, this is dumb. But nobody needs to know that. The box. Right. I'm like, this is so fascinating. You feel a little ping of pain and you're like, okay, I made it through that one. And then there'll be another one and another one. And pretty soon you'll forget that it's a big deal to some people. And, I'll be at like a school function and be like, oh, I'm divorced. And I can see the discomfort on the other person. And I'm like, oh, right. Not everybody can just lead with that. Uh-huh.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. No, I think this is such a great conversation. I think it's really an important one, because I know there's a lot of people, and midlife tends to bring that, to where we get to a place where we, maybe are just done settling, or maybe, we see a bigger vision for our life and maybe we just can't get there from here, and so there's a lot, and it's not just divorce. It could be, changing a job or career, or, there's so much transition and so much of us growing into a better version of ourselves that's maybe a little less afraid to ask for what we want. And so I think, when we're looking at all my listeners and whatever major life transitions they're going through, what would you say to somebody who feels like their life is just completely falling apart and they just don't see the possibility yet on the other side?
I call this the void. I would say let it burn. Let it fall apart. I promise you're not going to be in the dark forever. You will see the light. You will get clarity. You're not always in charge of the timing of it. But I always say that today's discomfort is an investment in your future, and your future self will thank you for being willing to feel like your face is melting off right now so that she can be living her best life. It's the cost of entry sometimes. It's the investment that we have to make in a life so good it doesn't make sense. And if that's the payoff I'm getting on the other side of discomfort, then I'm leaning into it every time. I don't want to run from it. I don't want to delay it. I don't want to avoid it. I say, bring it. Let's do it. I want to get to the other side of it.
Yeah, and it's that whole, you can't go over it, you can't go under it. You just got to go through it.
Yes, I was just talking about that. Yeah, on social media, I was like, look, I remember standing at the starting line of this process thinking, I'd give anything to be to the other side of it already. And there's literally no way but through. So we might as well just go.
Yeah. And the curiosity is such a big piece because I think so often one of the things that our brains do is we just assume, and assumption is such an evil thing because we just assume we know what other people are thinking about us, or maybe they are, judging us or whatever. And a lot of times that's just so not true. And yet we create this great big story in our brain that just doesn't serve us. And so I think we have to be able to just be curious and go, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but I'm going to show up and I'm going to be open to it being a good day.
Yeah, remember, like we're always worried about the worst case scenario, but let's give equal airtime to the best case scenario because I've seen some miracles happen. I have had things happen to me, to my clients that just shouldn't be possible, and yet here they are unfolding. And that I always hold space for, no matter how much anxiety I have, for the possibility that this could all work out tomorrow in a very surprising way that I can't possibly even imagine right now.
Yeah. And I love that. I think that I live my life that way too. And I try to.
Yeah.
And I think as we get more accustomed to listening to that inner voice and trusting ourselves, it becomes easier over time. But, like you say, every day is a new day to kind of get that trust built for us.
Yes. Yeah. The only way to get that trust built back, or maybe for the first time, is through action and failure. Like you sort of like mess your way up there, but you'll see that, oh, I can handle the failures, and I might fail 100 times and succeed twice, but the successes change my life.
Yeah. And create a totally different version of who you are becoming.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe just give us maybe 3 of your top things that you would advise if somebody's like standing at the precipice of going through this hard thing. What 3 pieces of advice could you offer them to bring them comfort and help them to step forward with a more positive approach?
Okay. Number 1, I want you to work on your emotional resilience and how you're processing negative emotion. So the emotional divorce piece is what drives the legal process. And if you're not working on that, if you're just stuffing everything down and willpowering your way through, it's just going to be harder and take longer and cost more money. So you need to figure out a way to work on your emotional resilience and processing your feelings. Number 2, your decision-making process needs to include your vision. So if you're wondering what to do today, you're like, ooh, I'm not sure what to do here, then I want you to filter it through the lens of your vision and what you want most, not through the past, not through your anger, not through your hurt. I want you to think about what decision moves me closer to being the person I want to be, to having the life that I want. And then number 3, you have to have financial sovereignty, is what I call it. You've got to work on your relationship to money. I've worked with women who have millions and millions of dollars, who have so much scarcity, they're paralyzed. And I've worked with women who are starting with almost nothing, who embrace abundance and feel like they've got nothing to lose and like go put it all out on the field. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Chances are you need to look at your relationship to earning money, holding money, using money, and receiving money.
And managing money, right? And
yes.
Especially when you're on your own, right? And I just actually did a podcast on that, and it's fascinating how many women don't have the financial literacy to take them into this next phase. So that's another whole, chapter of leaving a marriage, right?
For sure. I think it absolutely needs to be, because that if they don't have the literacy, and then also they're afraid and ashamed that they don't have the literacy, so then they're sort of like figuring it out on their own with the shame, and it's so much worse. Don't do that. You're not alone. Everybody has stuff to work on in terms of their relationship to money. Just get it out there, get the support you need, read a book, listen to a podcast, whatever you need to do, but don't ignore it, because that's going to cost you money and peace.
And the peace is a huge of that.
Yes.
It's the
whole
money.
point.
It is the money.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to create is peace. Well, I have really enjoyed this conversation. I think we could speak so much more, but maybe we'll do this again sometime because I'm sure
I'd love it.
There's so much more that we could unpack. But before we go, I just want to say, where can people find you and how can they connect with you if they would like to work with you?
You can go to my website, meagannorris.com, or find me on Instagram. Meagan Norris Coaching is my handle, and I have a subscription-based offer. I have some courses and a mentorship, so everybody can find something for themselves there.
That's perfect, and we'll make sure we include all of that in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
All right, Meagan, thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope it inspired you or motivated you in some way to keep going and to create your very best life. Want to know what to do next? Share this episode with someone that you love who maybe just needs a little more delicious in their life. Join my free Facebook community over at Mindset Mastery for Midlife Women, where like-minded women come together to support and inspire each other, and where we get to hang out together. And I offer cool bonuses, videos, and some extra content. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe so that when new episodes drop, they'll be queued up and ready for you. And if you're ready to take a deeper dive into mastering your mindset, I invite you to come on over to lifeisdelicious.ca/work with me, where I offer limited one-to-one coaching sessions, and you can sign up for a free discovery call with me. In case no one has told you today, there's not one person on this planet that is exactly like you, and the world is a better place because you're here. So thank you for being here. I'll be back next week, and I hope you'll join me right here on Life is Delicious.